A handful of basketball coaching changes have been made or are about to be made in the ACC. Is NC State about to hit the biggest home run of all of them?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in this episode. So within the past few days, Miami hires Jay Lucas, who's the top assistant coach at Duke, so he gets to stay in the ACC. Florida State names Luke Locks their next basketball coach. He's going to take over for Leonard Hamilton after however long Florida State's ACC tournament run goes. Coach Ham is going to finish that out. Another team with a coaching vacancy now is NC State after my Hurricanes got Kevin Keatts fired with that brilliant victory this past Saturday. But the name that I keep seeing, Kenton, getting linked to NC State is a very big name, and that's Will Wade. Is that going to happen?
Frank Williams Wade, please. We are asking. Actually, no, we're not asking. We're begging and pleading. Please, come on to NC State. No, but in all seriousness, he is the name that is the hottest name in connection with NC State because everybody wants some of Will Wade. If you've got a coaching vacancy, you want some of Will Wade right now, okay? He is by, for all intents and purposes, the top guy on everybody's board. There's not a single place he's been that he has not had immense success. Not a single place that he's been. McNeese State is playing the best basketball that they ever have in their program history because of Mr. Wade. So by all means, he's absolutely the top guy. He's the guy that gets the people going. He has that salesmanship and showmanship. He has that demeanor that you just know he'll work out in the NIL era. He was doing NIL before it was legal. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. He was just early. Free my dog, Sherwood Blunt, and free Will Wade till it's backwards. Well, I guess Will Wade is free, but you get the point. You get the point. So I would absolutely love for him to be the guy, but there's also talk of VCU head coach Ryan Odom potentially being the guy for NC State. And he has connections. His family has deep connections with the Corrigan family. If you're thinking, why does the name Corrigan sound familiar? Oh, that's the college football playoff guy, right? Well, yes, that's his side gig. His main thing he gets paid to do is be the athletic director at NC State. So the athletic director's family has good ties with an up-and-comer in Coach Odom. And that's another guy that Wolfpack fans are excited about. Everybody wants Will Wade, but there would not be that much dejection if Odom were the guy. Now, if you don't get either one of those two, all hell would break loose. I mean, people would be calling up, hey, Wells Fargo or whoever I bank with, Chase or Fifth Third, whoever. That money that I sent in NIL, reverse that charge, please. Reverse it right now. That was an accident. My kid did it like he was buying Roblox or something. Get that off my car.
So, all right. So you mentioned Will Wade being ahead of his time in certain things. So he's been the subject of NCAA investigations before. That cost him his job at LSU a couple of years ago, was given a notice of allegations, was on FBI wiretap. So the trouble has followed this guy a little bit. And this is not like, he's not committing crimes or something, but NCAA violations have followed Will Wade around. But like you point out, he was, allegedly caught doing things in recruiting that are now no longer illegal in the NIL world. But at the same time, it's like people who tend to bend the rules will always they'll find ways to bend new rules. So like, is there any concern that Wade may find other rules to bend, or am I reading way too much into that?
I will tell you this. There are people who have that concern. I am not of that thought. I am not of that ilk. You know why, Donno? The same team put out all of these hits. Spygate, Deflategate, allegedly multiple opposing teams saying our headsets never worked in their stadium. And yet you never hear about those things, do you? You don't hear about it. Oh, and the tuck rule. All of those things all happen for the same team.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guess what? None of it matters when you win. I can't remember who it was, but there was an NFL scout that said if Hannibal Lecter ran a 4.3 and could make tackles, we'd say he just had an eating problem. Will Wade is not doing anything or has not done anything to the level of what we've seen other coaches do to. And by all means, those other coaches got new jobs. Those other coaches got new jobs. So we can pretend, we can all sit up here and be on this moral high ground of, oh, you should never take a cheater. You should never take somebody who bends or breaks the rules. All of the cheating scandals that have gone on in the ACC. And it's not ACC specific. Because every
it's not. I mean, think about Jim Harbaugh. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, possibly cheated to win. I mean, he definitely cheated if that won them the national championship or not. And he gets punished for all that stuff by getting another NFL head coaching gig.
Exactly.
The world we live in.
And before anybody on the other side of the rivalry that causes the game gets too high and mighty, why ain't Jim Tressel there anymore? What happened? Why did he leave? And before anybody outside of that gets too excited, why is D'Antoni not at Michigan State anymore? Same thing for Baylor with Browns. It's all over the place.
Right.
This is not exclusive to the ACC. And so I'm telling you, every single team has shown us every single time winning goes above people's morals. Okay? They say love covers over a multitude of sins. I disagree. In sports, winning covers over every sin. If you can get teams closer to a win, it doesn't matter what you've done, how you've done it, or who you've done it to. You just help teams get closer to wins. And that's what Will Wade can do. If he is in the ACC, period, the way that other ACC fan bases are talking about, that alone tells you, oh, folks are scared, because nobody's even mentioning the allegations or the not allegations, he was found guilty. They're not even mentioning the penalties and the infractions. Everybody said, oh, hell, we can't let Will Wade come in the ACC. We can't let him in the ACC. Yeah. So he's an amazing ball coach he's shivering timbers before he's coached a single minute of ACC basketball.
And I know we're going to break this down again tomorrow with Isaac Shade, who's Mr. Locked On College Basketball. But, Kenton, this conversation also goes to there has been, a recent lack of star power in ACC coaching, right? I mean, outside of John Shire at Duke, there's been, and he replaced a legend in his own right at Duke, but one of the biggest of all. Shire's obviously done very well, but then you've had other legends who have, stepped aside, Boeheim, Larinaga, Tony Bennett at Virginia, who have stepped aside recently from their ACC coaching jobs. And this conference has just been devoid of great proven coaching. And if Wade does come to the ACC, whether it's NC State or it's also maybe some chatter about Clemson as well, that would be an injection of star power coaching.
Absolutely. And not just the star power in terms of eyes and SEO, actual talent. He can get it done. Yeah. And I know some people are thinking, well, why would he go to Clemson? That job ain't even available. That one requires a little bit of chain reaction. That one requires a little bit of creativity. We do the knowledge here on Locked On ACC. So let's do the knowledge for you. The way that this would work is so Brownell, who is currently at Clemson, is said to be one of the front runner candidates for Indiana. Shout out to Jackson Hosier. You were right. He's said to be one of the front runner candidates for the Indiana opening. If he ends up at Indiana, what job then ends up open? Clemson.
Job.
And Clemson has the additional ducats for NIL or for whatever resources needed to support, because football has done it in that big of a way. And they also haven't spent in that way. Dabo is very adamant that it's not about the biggest bidder gets best player for him. So, they're not spending it in a way where it's like basketball, y'all going to have to take that change left over. So Will Wade coming into the ACC, again, if he's on your side, you love him. If he's not on your side, you're like, NCAA, investigate him again. He's doing something up there. I know something's going on. I don't know what, but we got our eye on you, William.
Well, we got more basketball and some football to talk about on this episode of Locked On ACC. Coming up a little bit later, first day of the ACC tournament, what we've taken in so far and what's going to happen over the next 5 days. But when we come back, what has been, and we'll keep this one actually inside football, because I'm tired of talking about conference realignment. We've done enough of it for the past 5 days, 5 months, maybe you could argue, but actual football stuff, not football tangential. What has been the biggest storyline in the ACC this offseason? We'll have that for you next. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. And folks, it is time for the Armada Team of the Week. And it's brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On college basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week are the Duke Blue Devils. John Shire's team, led by National Player of the Year candidate Cooper Flagg, just ripped through the ACC, going 19-1. The Blue Devils were plus 434 points in ACC games, the largest point differential by a power conference team in league play since Kentucky in 1954. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Duke Blue Devils have done here. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone do a fantastic job covering NC State on Locked On Wolfpack. I cover all things Miami at Locked On Canes. Kenton, when I said I was tired of talking about realignment, I lied a little bit. Okay, I lied a lot because I'm starting to see now folks are bringing up a possibility of Louisville going to the Big 12, which, I mean, that can't happen for another 5 years. You're muted. It might be a good thing you're muted, but I mean, but the Big 12 is still doing this stuff now, huh? They're still starting these rumors.
By folks, you mean Drake Toll, don't you? By folks,
yeah,
you mean Drake Toll.
Well, here's the thing. Like Drake Toll and the College Football Addiction Channel, they're like they go on each other's shows and stuff, and I feel like they like to bounce these rumors off of each other, and then they get 2 shows worth of material on it.
Don't worry about it. Next time I see Drake Toll, he getting a buzz cut like you and me. All 3 of us gonna have matching haircuts. Because I'm tired of you trying to take teams out of our damn conference, Drake. You keep your grubby little hands away from the ACC. We're all right. We're all right over here. And I'll tell you what. The offseason realignment talks and everything that happened in court were the biggest stories in the ACC. But there's plenty of big ones on the field. There's plenty of very big stories happening throughout the ACC and spring ball and whatnot.
All right, let me throw a multiple choice at you. I'm going to give you 3 possibilities, and I might be leaving something out. You may want to add this in. Option A for biggest storylines. I have to lead with this. Bill Belichick. I mean, you were just alluding to him and, the various gates. There were a lot of gates that happened in New England while he was there. Deflategate, Spygate. He's 6 rings as an NFL head coach, impeccable resume, and he has now brought Chapel Hill, North Carolina, has now the 33rd NFL team, I am told. So that's a big storyline. That's option A. Option B, some might think this is a reach, but I don't. Dabo Swinney using the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 3 players already, and that's just in one portal. There's another portal window in a month, and Will Helt, I think, is a really good addition to Clemson's defensive line. He's already practicing well, from what I understand. And so they are the defending ACC champs, and now their coach is no longer too stubborn to use the portal. And also, Kenton, I cover recruiting pretty closely in Miami, and Dabo's trying to take a bunch of kids from Florida and even South Florida this year. It's like, something like there is a beast that is awakened inside of Dabo Swinney where it seems like he's more motivated than ever to play the game. Transfer portal, NIL. So I think that's something to cover. That's option B. Option C, I had to throw this in, but I think this is a big storyline. Carson Beck taking his talents from Georgia, where he compiled a 24-3 record as a starter. And, only lost 3 games in 2 years, despite in the second of those years, Georgia didn't give him a lot of help. They had no receivers who could catch the ball. They had an offensive line that couldn't block, a running game that couldn't run. Yet he still put up pretty good numbers. and now he takes those talents behind a good offensive line at Miami. That's option C.
Here's the deal, right? I think the option A is the only option there is. Bill Belichick to UNC calls that we say, oh yeah, a player is box office. Oh yeah, Becker's gonna be box office. Cam Ward was box office. Shador, box office. Oh, Travis Hunter, box office. Bill Belichick literally got home box office, also known as HBO, to do a documentary of their offseason. Now, please tell me, do you think if Mr. William Mack Brown is still the head coach there, HBO is knocking?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, what if they hired let's say Summerall from Tulane? Do you think that HBO is coming knocking for that?
Not even Stars would come knocking for that.
Oh boy, Stars is crazy. The disrespect to Stars. They did have some good movies.
Does Stars still exist? It's like, is anybody paying for that?
I don't think they do exist. I don't know.
I hope they're not a sponsor of ours. It's like, we love the great people at Stars,
Stars
and all the amazing programming.
Thank you for the Sony movies that you bought first. Just Sony, no other ones. But in all seriousness, Bill Belichick is the biggest splash that there's been of a coaching hire in any sport, I would say, in the past, 10, 15 years? Like, you really got to reach back. Even if you're talking about Deion Sanders, he going to Colorado was only as big of a splash because he had shown, hey, I've done this at a high level, and I'm bringing the number one recruit in the nation that I got to commit to a Division II or FCS, HBCU, to this place with me. Like, that's the reason why, because if it wasn't about that, then Eddie George going to Bowling Green would be a bigger deal than it is. It's not, right? So that's just what that is. So obviously, Bill Belichick going to Chapel Hill, I mean, he's got to be the biggest storyline of the ACC offseason by a mile. And Lord forbid, I hope he remains that, because the only thing that can be bigger is if somebody ends up leaving this earth and leaving this fleshly plane early, which none of us want to see.
No, of course not. And so it's like, and also you think about the timing of this for North Carolina. We're about to enter this brave new world in the ACC where you can actually make extra revenue for more people watching your games, right? I mean, you get better TV ratings, and the hoodie is going to get you TV ratings. Now,
absolutely.
If North Carolina isn't good this year, and if they're losing games, the novelty, could wear off at some point. But if North Carolina is decent, and you get the factor of like, hey, you're watching Bill. It's still it's bizarre. It's never going to feel normal to me watching Bill Belichick on the sidelines wearing Tar Heels gear, coaching in the ACC. Like, that's always going to feel weird to me. So there is a great novelty factor there. And if North Carolina actually wins on the field this year, if their future starting quarterback that has not been crowned yet, it might even be a true freshman. Like, if they can deliver, then man, they have a real opportunity. I mean, UNC's always kind of in that top 4 neighborhood in ratings, but they might be able to crack the top 2 if they do a decent amount of winning with Belichick.
I'll tell you what, if that's an 8-win or more team, which I doubt, but it's possible. Show up, you got a fighter's chance. If they crack 8 wins, I highly doubt that they'd be outside the top 5. I highly doubt it that they'd be outside the top 5.
I'll pull up their schedule here while you're talking.
Yeah, simply because Bill Belichick is that type of draw. And here's the thing: Bill Belichick being this type of draw is one thing, but there's another portion of this that many people are forgetting to mention here. Bill Belichick is not just loved; he's a very polarizing figure. He's also hated by many. If he's loved and he's hated, what does that mean? I believe it was I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the radio hosts. There's a really big time. Howard Stern said that people who watched him longer and for more than the people who reported watching him because they liked him.
No, I remember it was in a scene. Did you ever see his movie Private Parts? And it was like the evil program director, Pig Vomit, was like, Stern. It was Paul Giamatti. He was a great actor. He was like, everybody, this Stern guy's terrible. And then they have the ratings. People are like, oh, well, don't worry. Like, more than half of the people we surveyed said that they hate him. He's like, great, but the people who hate him listen to him for 3 times longer than the people who love him. It's like, what?
And it's the exact same thing. Dolphins fans, Bills fans, Jets fans, Falcons fans. There's gonna be a lot of folks saying, "Oh, we cannot stand this man. We want to see him fail. I want to see him without Thomas Patrick Brady."
Count me among those, by the way. I mean, I'm wearing a Miami Dolphins t-shirt. You know how I feel about Bill Belichick. Count me among the haters.
And that's what I'm saying. So people are going to watch, not just the Boston market because they love him and they're like, oh, we hope that he's great and that he gets back to the NFL and maybe he'll be the Patriots coach again, which obviously ain't going to happen. But, he'll get back to the NFL, break the record, all that good stuff. Sure. They'll watch because they love him, but there's going to be a lot of folks saying, ooh, I just want to see him lose. So he's got to be the biggest story. Nobody's going to be hate watching. Nobody's going to be hate watching, with all due respect.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
All right. So, and by the way, with their first 4 non-conference games, that I could see them maybe starting the year 4-0, which would give them a lot of momentum, like from a viewership standpoint. I mean, home against TCU. Not saying that's an easy game, but it's a winnable non-con game to open the season. Then they're at Charlotte. That's a win. Home against Richmond. That's a win. At UCF. I mean, unless like I know UCF once won that national championship. That old, but they were pretty bad last year. I think they won like 4 or 5 games last year, so that seems winnable. And so before then they'll have a baptism at home against Clemson for their 5th game. But if they could start 4-0 in that non-con, that's going to build a lot of momentum for them in terms of the brand initiative.
I'm willing to bet you any amount of money if they start off 4-0, game day is going to be at that game, Clemson, North Carolina.
Yeah.
If both teams start off the season undefeated going into that game, number one, they're going to be very highly rated. I'm not even going to say overrated. I'll just say they'll be highly rated. And so will Clemson. And that game will get game day because that's going to be one of those signature like, oh, this was the moment. With all due respect, right? I don't think anybody looks at Sonny Dykes and says, hey, that's a coach right there. If you beat him, you can beat anybody. Nobody's saying that about Sonny Dykes, with all due respect. Again, he's been to the college football playoff, been to a national championship, has accomplished things that very few coaches before him have. So this is me not saying Sonny Dykes is a joke. I'm not saying that. This is not an indictment of him. I'm saying people don't look at him as like the bar for college football, despite his success. Despite TCU being in one of the biggest metropolitans in America in Dallas-Fort Worth, they just don't get that type of love. But then you move forward from there and you say you're looking at an undefeated Bill Belichick against an undefeated Dabo Swinney. That's probably going to be a top 15 to 20 matchup at worst. Yeah. And game day is going to be right there.
When we come back, biggest developments in the ACC tournament so far, including a really bad call. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet. Kenton Gibbs and Alex Donno with you on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. My friends, ever wished you could directly support your favorite ACC schools' athletes and be part of their journey? Now you can with Roy, the NIL app that puts fans in control. Before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors. And fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players you love. Now with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing your favorite school. With Roy, you get to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, and then get exclusive content straight from the athletes you back. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. So it's a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. Support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of your favorite school's athletic program. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing athletes the way they deserve with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. First day of the ACC tournament. with some fireworks. So the first result of the day, really close game between Notre Dame and Pitt. They were about to go to overtime, and you thought that they had because Notre Dame missed a layup as time expired. But they said Zach Austin committed a foul, which I thought was absolute nonsense. And so the officials put Notre Dame on the free throw line with 0.5 seconds left, tied at 54. All you had to do was win one free throw to win the game that really should have gone to overtime. And that's exactly what happened. ND hits 1 of 2, and they move on. They keep dancing in the ACC.
As the Beans and Toast Brigade would say, rubbish. The call was absolute rubbish. That was a terrible call, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not even one of those guys that's like, oh, you got to swallow your whistle in the last minute or so. That game was, it's not even about it being tightly contested. That was a very physical game. That was a game where the refs let them play. And I'm good for letting them play. I'm not even a guy that gets mad at tight whistles. If you're going to call it like that all night, having the tight whistles, let the players know, hey, we're having another, because sometimes it does serve a purpose, right? If it's in a rivalry that's gotten chippy in the past, and you're like, hey, we don't want the fans to see you fighting, we're going to call this thing real tight. Sure. Yeah. Call it how you call it. Don't let them play all game. Don't let them, bludgeon each other basically all game. And then in this one moment, call something that looked to me like a phantom call. I didn't see, because I did not see enough contact that I thought, oh, that alters the shot. Not in any meaningful way.
No, I think the shot was already up. It didn't look like a foul to me at all. It was barely touched his wrist.
Exactly. So I don't agree with the call at all. And it's disappointing because, again, that was a phenomenal game. That was an amazing game. And for it to end like that is just, it's really disappointing.
Yeah, it was Ty Davis of Notre Dame who got put on the free throw line, whether it was justified or not, and was able to win that basketball game for Notre Dame. We're looking forward. I know we have a couple results that are pending. So depending on what time you watch this, we don't yet know who wins between Syracuse and Florida State. That's coming up right after we're done recording here. We did have Cal in 2 overtimes beating Virginia Tech 82-73. But I'm curious to watch Florida State against Syracuse, because something I hear a lot, and a lot of it's tongue in cheek, I think, but I hear a lot of Florida State fans and people who cover Florida State saying hey, it's really going to be great when we're going to win 5 games in 5 days for Coach Ham to make this miraculous NCAA tournament run. I mean, I don't know if Florida State's going to win 1 game in this ACC tournament, but I will say, even as a Miami guy, I got no love for Florida State. If Leonard Hamilton can go out with 5 wins in 5 days in the ACC tournament and get himself into the NCAA tournament for his last ride, even I would be really impressed. And I do have some love for Coach Ham, who coached at Miami many moons ago.
To balance out the karma of Florida State and a lot of things that have been said, if Coach Ham wins 5 games in 5 days, I will on air eat hot dog. Eat 1 hot dog. I will eat.
I was worried for you there.
1 hot dog in a hot dog bun with ketchup, mustard, onions, and relish on top of it. That is going to be an incredible feat. And if he can pull it off, I'm not sure that they have the talent to do it. It's not even what I think about him as a coach. I just don't think they have the horses in the stable to beat a Louisville, to beat I believe they would have to go through Clemson as well if they were to do it. But I could be wrong there. I just don't think they have.
I'll pull up the bracket. I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, and by the way, they are favored in the game against Syracuse by 3.5 points. So they could get that first dub that they need. And they would have to. So if Florida State wins, they would play SMU in the next round, and then the winner of that takes on Clemson.
Yeah,
so
they'd have to go through Clemson. Yeah. So
at least they avoid they wouldn't have to beat Duke until the final, which is nice. But
and I'm gonna tell you something. That Duke team, everybody talks about NC State winning it last year. In all fairness, that the teams at the top of the league last year, none of them would be favorited against Duke this year. Like not
No.
a single one of those teams.
I mean,
would be
Duke
like,
last year would be like 11-point underdogs against Duke this year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, I get it. On ACC, on Locked On ACC, we've talked ad nauseum about how much we hate hypotheticals. But in all seriousness, if Ham does this, that's an extremely uphill battle. And again, that is why I will eat a hot dog, not like the other one who talked about eating something hot from a dog. If Florida State were to lose a game, I'm not that stupid because anybody could do anything. But
well, and if you say you're going to do that, it will absolutely happen. That if the moment you put that into the universe that you're going to eat then believe me, Coach Ham is going to win 5 games in 5 days.
And that's exactly why I left it at a hot dog. Okay, I haven't eaten. And here's the funny thing, right? I'm not even a huge hot dog guy. Not a very big hot dog.
Neither
guy
am I.
Yeah. But if Coach Ham wins, I will reduce myself to eating boiled rat ankles or whatever they put in there these days.
I don't know. Like I'll sometimes eat hot dogs like when I cook them myself, or if my wife cooks them. Like if I grill them, but I never go to a restaurant or even like a hot dog stand. Like a
hot dog stand is
I'll
crazy.
find somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know. I never eat, like occasionally I'll grill them at home, but I never eat hot dogs out.
Well, I'm from Detroit, so Coney Island is like a delicacy to us. And one of their main things is Coney dogs. It's a hot dog with either chili and mustard and onions. That's a standard Coney, but some people do chili and cheese. Some people do chili and ketchup. Some people do they do with all the works, the chili, the ketchup, the onions, the mustard, the whole 9, cheese, all that. So, different people do it different ways. Me personally, though, I grew up on Chili's, man. Them $2 Tuesdays at El Georgia. Shout out to the boys up there. They make a hell of a Coney dog, man.
Here's the thing, though. Once you get to be, in your late 30s, or I'm 40 now, you can't eat chili too often because it starts to bubble. Starts to bubble in your gut, man. Starts to bubble. Yeah.
I'm going to take your word on that, man. I'm going to take your word on that. Get us out of here. These fans don't want to hear about your indigestive problems.
I don't want you to get the bubble guts when you get to your late 30s. So we'll talk to everyone.
We barely got teams on the bubble, and you talk about bubble guts.
I mean, just thinking about, and I think it's the when you do chili cheese, that's what really puts, like, if you do like a
chili cheese is great. Yeah, chili cheese is right.
Chili cheese, like chili cheese fries, chili cheese
dog.
We
love some chili cheese fries at Coney. We love the chili cheese.
I gotta go. We'll talk to you guys next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Come on, Will Wade. You hear that money. Come on.